Hey, it's David. We're back for, can you believe it, another video. This time we're leaving Jasper and we're heading down the Icefields Parkway towards Lake Louise. We had a great time. There's so many stops on the way, so this video should be a good one. The Icefields Parkway is 232 kilometers long. It travels through the Canadian Rockies, traveling between Jasper and Lake Louise. 1.2 million people take this route every year, most of them during the summer, and it's one of the most scenic routes in Canada. It's also an Instagram paradise. There are so many stops on the way, so there's lots of things to see, and it's just really beautiful. One thing you need to do before you set out is check the weather. When we went in November, it can be hit or miss. When we arrived in Jasper, the entire road was closed, and I was really worried that we weren't going to make it. I'm not sure how you get to your hotel in Emerald Lake if you cannot physically get down there. There is a massive detour that you have to go like all the way around. It takes like 7 hours. I really didn't want to do that. It's not scenic and it's very long. And even then, there's no guarantee that we can get to our hotel. So I was a little bit worried. I was praying for snow. I got what I wanted. The night before we arrived, there was 20 to 30 centimeters of snow across the Canadian Rockies, which is amazing. Not so great if you want to travel down the road. So yeah, you need to check the weather and the road status to make sure it's open, because you can get stuck at many points. There's gates and they'll turn you around, and that's not great. The road's only ploughed between 7 a.m. and 3:30, so that's when the road conditions will be their best. And they advise to travel during those times. The weather and road conditions along the route vary dramatically. Some parts are clear and dry, you wouldn't know that there was any snow, and other areas are like completely covered and it feels very treacherous. And occasionally you see a car like abandoned, or hopefully abandoned, on the side of the road. So it's not for the faint-hearted. As you can tell, the whole thing requires careful preparation and quite a bit of luck. I'm recording this video in March, and the weather conditions at the moment are far worse than they were when we were doing it in November. Often the road is closed, the avalanche risk is significantly higher, and yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this in the heart of winter. So what's the history of the road? So this road was built between 1931 and 1940. It was originally a dirt road, and it was upgraded to being paved in the 1960s. There'd been a route that joins Jasper and Lake Louise for a very long time. Indigenous people used to trek over this area. In the early 1900s, you can organize a guide that would do this route, but it would take several weeks, and it wasn't for everybody. You had to have plenty of money and also a bit of luck to make it. So having a road, even a gravel one, is significantly better. They actually built this road as a Depression-era relief project. Canada in the 1930s was struggling with the Depression, and this project aimed to employ many people and try to stimulate the economy. It employed 600 to 2,000 men, although numbers vary by source and the time period. Workers were paid $5 per month plus room and board, which I imagine was okay in those times, but the route was built by hand, which meant that you employed more people, which stimulated the economy further, and each camp was given only one tractor to maximize the number of jobs created. The surveyors made up the route daily with no master plan, which is why it weaves through the landscape. It makes it really stunningly beautiful, but I imagine might have been a bit of a nightmare to build. Like everywhere on this trip, this route is steeped in history. There was a fur trade route many hundreds of years before there was a road, and indigenous people traversed this terrain for many years before that. In the 1920s, Jack Brewster ran guided trips between Jasper and Banff. Yes, the same Brewster family that I mentioned in my previous video. Jack was actually the brother of Fred, and Fred built the Maligne Lake that I previously spoke about. So yeah, they're pretty prolific in this area. This area was also used in World War II to conduct secret mountain training by the British and American troops, but today it's a lot more chill. It's important to note that we didn't do all this in one day, but it makes for good storytelling. So we're going to pretend that we did. So we left Jasper around 10:30, and the weather was really nice. The first sight isn't really a sight at all. It's more of a lay-by, the Athabasca Lookout. This area was severely fire damaged. I spoke about that in my previous video. It used to have a toilet, apparently, but now it's completely gone. And all the trees are completely destroyed. They look like matchsticks for as far as the eye can see. It's pretty sad. But the next bigger stop is Athabasca Falls. This area is also fire damaged, but it's a much bigger attraction. You'll see this on Instagram. Many people come here. It's really beautiful. It's actually quite big. There's lots of different angles where you can see the falls. There's lots of stuff to see. The challenge with it being really popular and beautiful is that everyone wants to get the Instagram photo. This inevitably leads to people doing stupid stuff, and there are signs everywhere telling people don't do stupid stuff. But people continue to do it, and they lean just a little bit too far over the edge, and they end up falling into the falls. It's a really bad place to be, especially in the winter. The survival odds really aren't great. If you don't hit your head on the way down, you're plunged into super cold water, you get hypothermia within minutes and can drown, and victims typically can't pull themselves out. The last example of someone doing something stupid was in 2021, where someone went beyond the barriers and ended up falling into the water. In that case, they did manage to pull themselves out and everything was fine, but it's definitely not something you want to be doing. This area was Jana's favorite falls. The light was amazing. It was golden, there was light snow in the air, it was quiet, there weren't that many people there, which was really nice, mainly because it's the winter. I got a lot of photos here from a lot of different angles. I had a really good time here. Further down the road is Sunwapta Falls. It's much quieter than Athabasca Falls, and it's much smaller. There's actually an upper and a lower falls, and we only did the upper one. I don't think... Did we know about the lower falls? Possibly not. Either way, it was very quiet. In the summer, you can actually see here. At the end of the road, there's the Sunwapta Falls Mountain Lodge, and you can literally be around the corner, which would be really nice. The photo I took here, I think it's okay. It's beautiful, and I have only one regret, which is I wish I'd stepped like one step to the right. I feel like on the left of the image, lots of the things overlap, and I really just want it to be a little bit better, but I kind of remember that maybe it wasn't possible. I think a lot of the images that I'd seen before going were taken years previous, and because the trees grow and things fall, it doesn't really align always, so maybe I could have never taken the photo that I really wanted. But yeah, this area was beautiful. It's very nice there. So then we got back in the car and headed towards the Columbia Icefields. This area is stunningly beautiful, but bleak. It's barren, there's not much here. It's home to the Athabasca Glacier, and it's rapidly retreating. When researching for this video, I found some photos that showed the previous extent of the glacier being much closer to the road. Indeed, in 1715, the glacier's toe extended all the way to what would be the road. Obviously, I don't have any photos because photos not big in 1715, but it's lost 50% of its volume since then. It retreats around 5 meters a year and has retreated at approximately 1.5 kilometers since 1844. It's projected by 2100, both it and 70% of Canada's ice will have completely disappeared. Here there's also a hotel that you can stay in during the summer. It's Canada's only glacial view hotel. Originally, this is the site of the Icefield Chalet, built in 1939 by Fred Brewster. In 1996, the Columbia Icefield Centre replaced the chalet and now hosts all of the facilities on site. It also hosts a skywalk with a glass floor and a petrol station, but it's all closed because of the winter. We actually went to the car park, and in places the snow is knee to waist deep, which I think is great. Jana was less keen, but yes, it's very snowed in. The next part of the road is quite long and uneventful. It's really beautiful, but there's not really anywhere to stop, and I wish I had more footage. Jana took some photos on her phone, but overall we don't have too much of this area. As I mentioned previously, the road conditions vary quite dramatically. At one point we stopped on the side of what felt like a mountain, and the road was completely covered in compacted snow and ice to the point where you couldn't see the middle of the road. Not that it really mattered because I was the only person on the road, but I still felt like I should be on my side. Here was also several vehicles that seemed abandoned on the side of the road, which wasn't very reassuring, but it is a good example of what happens when things go wrong. So I took this video to demonstrate what the road conditions look like, and behind me there was this massive sign that says "Do not pick up artillery shells," which seems mildly out of place in the middle of Canada, but when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. This area is avalanche prone, and they use military artillery to preemptively trigger the avalanches. But sometimes those artillery shells don't detonate, so the shells can be just lying around, and if you pick them up, maybe they'll blow your hand off. Not a great way to end your day, but it's another example of things in Canada that can kill you. The next big hotspot was actually Peyto Lake. This is a massive Instagram hotspot. So many of the Instagram reels that I've been watching up to this point highlighted Peyto Lake that, yeah, I thought I had to go. There's actually a platform at the lookout now, so it's not like a rocky outcrop. I think this is because people were trashing the place. In a lot of the videos, you see people like clambering over rocks on the edge. You can't do that anymore. They're just trashing the place. This lake was named after Bill Peyto. Bill was born in Welling, Kent, England in 1869. He emigrated to Canada in 1887 and worked as a railway labourer, and he became a tour guide and an outfitter in the early 1890s. The lake was named after him after he guided a surveyor in 1896, and he became one of Banff's first wardens in 1913 and served until retiring in 1936 or 37 depending on the source. The lake is a short 15-minute hike from the car park. It's relatively easy if you have the right gear. The car park was covered in snow, like deep snow, and we had a 4x4, so things were okay, but I do wonder how other people fared. This is probably because it's the highest point on a public road in Canada, near Bow Summit, which is 2,067 meters in altitude. It was actually pretty busy here. The car park was pretty full, and there were plenty of people on the hike, though people's choice of footwear was very mixed. We have hiking boots, and this was the first time that I probably should have worn my cleats, but there were people there in trainers, in smart shoes, and it's a moderate incline, especially when it's covered in ice. Yeah, it felt like people weren't prepared at all. Jana really didn't appreciate this hike because she also didn't have any cleats and was sliding around, but as you can see from this video, the view was totally worth it. In the summer, it turns this very vivid turquoise due to the rock flour that's entrained in the water coming from the glacier. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of the photos I took here. It was beautiful, and the weather was nice, though we were starting to run out of light, and we weren't at our destination yet, so we couldn't stay here for too long. At the end of the parkway, it actually joins onto Highway 1. Highway 1 is part of the Trans-Canadian Highway, which stretches around 800 kilometers from Victoria in British Columbia on our side to St. John's in Newfoundland on the other side of Canada. There is a few ferry rides in between, but it's a massive road. The route is much more reliable for heavy goods vehicles than the Icefields Parkway, but it's still pretty challenging. There are some steep inclines, and there's many stops on the way where you have to put snow chains on if you're a massive goods vehicle. I was a bit disappointed that the lower spiral tunnel was closed. So this is where the train travels through the mountains. As I mentioned, I think in my first or second video, this was the original route of the train, but it's not the easiest way to go. There are steep grades, it's very mountainous, so they've actually had to do a bunch of clever engineering to get around these. They have these spiral tunnels, which go through the mountains in a spiral, which allow the train to go up and down steep grades much more gently. And along the side of the road, there are some viewpoints, and if you time it right, then you can see the train going through them. As I say, it's the winter, they were completely closed, so yeah, we didn't get an opportunity to stop here. So the final stop on our trip was Emerald Lake. This is where we were going to be staying for the night. It actually wasn't originally on the plan. Originally, we were meant to have 3 nights in Jasper, and then we'd go straight to Lake Louise. But we decided to switch some stuff up. I really wanted to go to the Emerald Lake Lodge, so I shortened the Jasper stay and added 1 night in Emerald Lake. And it was a fantastic decision. When we arrived, it was almost sunset. I parked the car and sent Yana to go and check in. She failed because she didn't have me or my credit card and ended up sat beside this massive raging fire. I'll talk about Emerald Lake probably in the next video, but she was warm and entertained. And then in the meantime, I just fell in love with this area. The light was really nice and I knew exactly what I wanted to take a photo of. The water here is again a turquoise color, but it's clear. You can see tree trunks in the water and the mountains in the background with the hotel and the bridge in the middle of it. It's absolutely stunning. And I feel like I keep saying that, but it's really true. Just some of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I got lost in this place for probably an hour, probably maybe longer, until the light was not great and I gave up taking photos. It was amazing. I only had 1 night, 1 sunset, so I had to rinse the opportunity. Highly recommend. I think this is a good place to stop. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the Emerald Lake Lodge, the hotel itself, and the area, and then we go to Lake Louise, and things only get better. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Do all that YouTuber stuff. It's in the bottom. It really helps. Tells YouTube that this video isn't garbage. And maybe then more people watch it, which would be great. I need all those views. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.